Hello. It's time to make focaccia. Doesn't that sound good? Who doesn't like that? I'm sure there's somebody. Whatever. So let's make some focaccia today. Um, you know what it's good for. I'm not even gonna go into that. Let's just freaking cook. Because it's gonna take a while. Get the rising process and all that. It's easy though, and I hope that you'll try it. Need some equipment. The food processor is gonna make this super easy. You can knead it by hand, you can do it in a KitchenAid, but this is a quickie. Okay, so 3.5 cups of flour. This recipe doesn't call for rosemary, but I love rosemary. So I'm gonna put this into the food processor. Make a big old mess. Whatever, who cares, it's fine. To this, we're adding a good teaspoon of salt. You're gonna be amazed at how quickly this comes together. I'm doing this backwards. Let's see if that works. Hey, it worked. We're gonna pulse it a few, oh my gosh, don't look. We're gonna pulse it a few times to mix the salt and the flour together and hopefully chop up some of the rosemary. That's it, we're done. And now, we're gonna take the lid off of this. Oh, this is gonna be a mess, isn't it? I might have thought about this differently. Hang on a minute, don't go anywhere. I mean, really. There's a reason this is on my personal page and not like, you know, something professional. It's fine, who cares? This is 1 1/3 cups of hot water, like tap hot water. And I mixed it with 1 packet of yeast, of instant yeast, and then 1 teaspoon of sugar. The cool thing about, I mean, if you don't know, I think everyone knows this, maybe you don't. But yeast eats sugar and grows. Yeast is alive, that's a whole other story. But in order to activate it from the refrigerator and out of the packet, it needs warmth for that to happen, and it needs food, and sugar is food. It'll turn the flour into sugar, right, the way our bodies do, and it'll make food that way, and it'll grow, and the gases and all that stuff with the gluten, and there's a whole mess. But you have to activate the yeast for the best results. So we've activated the yeast. I did it off camera before I started because it takes about 10 minutes. So in order to pour it in, I'm gonna use this guy, because we're gonna pour it in the food processor while it's running. I'm not gonna talk because apparently that's a no-no, and I have a really bad microphone. Nah, forget it, who cares? So we're gonna turn it on, not pulse, and just add all the water completely. You're gonna watch it come together into a ball. It's really cool. I wasn't gonna talk. You see this? Isn't that cool? That is a ball of dough. I just love this. So now you want to kind of feel it. If it feels like too tacky, see how it's sticking to my fingers? That's a little too tacky. I know some people like that. That's another story. So what we'll do is we'll put some flour down. This is probably a cup of flour. And we're gonna knead the dough until it's dry enough to, well, yeah. Can you see how sticky that is? And the thing is, you can use the same recipe over and over and over, and it will still change every time, depending on the weather, depending on your flour. So, we have this tacky dough, we're adding flour all over it. This is gonna dry out or, you know, absorb the water and make it more pliable. Now this feels so good. I'm gonna scoot some of this off the side because that's gonna be too much flour, I think. It's gonna knead it in. Yep, that was all it needed. So it probably took an extra, I don't know, quarter cup of flour, but you play with this. You don't want it too dry. You want it a little bit tacky. I'm gonna include in the recipe the directions, and she kind of talks about it. This is not my recipe. This is from Lydia Bastianich. She cooks on PBS. So we've got our dough into a little ball. This is kneading. Everyone knows that, right? If not, you do now. So now watch this, use your hands, cup it, squeeze and turn, cup it, squeeze and turn. And then it kind of makes a little ball. Makes a uniform ball. How nice is that? So now this guy has to raise. We need the yeast to do its thing, to feed off of the sugar and to grow. And that makes our dough spongy and airy and light. And that's good. It makes it raise. So let's see there. This is my KitchenAid bowl. Because focaccia generally takes a lot of olive oil. We're gonna raise it with some in the bowl and then sprinkle at the end. So because you're gonna taste the olive oil, use a high quality olive oil. This is from 43 Ranch. This is the best shiz I've ever tasted. And they've won tons of awards, 43ranch.com, you can buy it. It's super, super good. So I'm gonna generously coat the inside of the bowl. I'm gonna put the dough ball upside down. This is the bottom. And roll it around and bathe it in the oil. And now I'm gonna flip it. So now there's oil on top and it's sitting in a little bit of oil. And we're gonna cover it with either a damp tea towel or some plastic wrap. This is not easy, is it? My hands are filthy and sticky. I'm gonna cover it and let it sit for about an hour until it doubles in size. And then we'll come back. Okay, the dough has risen. Anyway, that's double. So check that out, isn't that pretty? We're gonna dump this out into, this is a quarter sheet pan. Whatever you wanna use. It fills this pan perfectly. So it's a small cookie sheet. Anyway, I'm gonna douse the bottom with olive oil. It's a lot. And just get it all over the bottom of the pan. Isn't this the gnarly looking pan? But it's been well used and well loved. And now we're gonna dump the whole dough right into the pan. It's squishy. It feels, I don't even know what it feels like, but it feels like raised dough. I'm just gonna push it out. As we push down, we're gonna push down vertically and then out horizontally. How's that sound? That's technical. Push it out. We don't want it too thick in one spot or another. We want this as even as possible. See, it just fills it just right. Now see all this oil in the corners? That's gonna make a really crusty fried corner on there. Hot dang. So now the dough it's been deflated because we kind of took the air out of it. We're gonna let it sit for a little bit more. You could bake it like this, but I like it puffy. So I just turned the oven to 450 and it'll take about 10 minutes. So in about 15 minutes, we'll come back and there's one more little thing we have to do before we put this in the oven. Okay, so the oven's hot and the bread has risen a little bit more. I was thinking too, there are different kinds of focaccia, all sorts. You know, we've all seen the big, thick, pillowy ones you cut in half, make a sandwich out of. This is kind of a thinner, it's gonna be a crispier focaccia that would be good for dunking into soup. Or into some really good olive oil and balsamic vinegar. But this is the thin, crispy one, just so no one's disappointed, okay? Because I know how you are. does that even mean? Anyway, so now we're all tilt down. We're gonna make some deeper indentations with our finger, or I'll do it with my finger, whatever. But the best part about this is, yeah, that's pretty good. These little indentations are gonna catch some salty water. I've put 1/4 cup of water and a half a teaspoon of salt. So what this does is the water catches in these little holes, and that part doesn't really crisp up. So the whole top's gonna be kind of crispy and brown with these little soft patches of little salty goodness. So now we'll just kind of sprinkle it over the top. And then it goes right in the oven. The recipe says like 15 minutes. I'm gonna cautiously think it might take a little bit more. But we'll check it at 15. And if it takes more, it takes more. So now, okay. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's a good trick. That stuff's going in the oven, and I'll be back in 15-ish minutes when it's done. Okay, so, man, does it smell good in here. Let's get me out of the pictures. Get with the bread. Check that out. Doesn't that look good? Oh my gosh, see what I was talking about? How it kind of browned on top? But where we put our fingers for indentation with the salt water, it's crispy here and really soft. Ooh, right in there. So good. It's a little unfinished though, so we're gonna finish it with our delightful, delicious, amazing olive oil. You can lather it on too, because it's gonna soak it up. And as it cools, crisp it up even more. It's a lot, I know, but this stuff is meant to be delectable. So we'll use a brush to kind of spread it around, get all of the crusty parts. Yum, yum, yum. So now that it's glistening, that was kind of our glue. We're gonna add some more salt. I mean, if you know me, you know I could probably just eat salt with a spoon, but this is different. These are Malden salt flakes. They're a finishing salt, and you can kind of see, I think, how it's not just the table salt. They're big, crispy flakes, so they're pretty, and they're gonna add a little bit of a crunch and a little bit of a mess, but it all cleans up well. So now, it'd be a good time, you could even chop up some more fresh rosemary and put on top. But that is our finished, beautiful focaccia. You'll wanna let it cool for a little bit. See, I'm gonna eat one. Oh gosh, it's so good. That was salt. I'll let it cool before you take it out of the pan, obviously. You don't want to burn yourself. But that's it. That should be cooled off in about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. Eat that crap. Focaccia. I got you, focaccia. Oh, that was stupid. Okay, anyway, we're gonna end this now. Bye, everybody.